welcome back to the Beach Bum Bookworm. I am Tiffany. I'm so glad y'all found me again today. My channel's all about cozy mysteries and romance books, and today I'm here with my February romance wrap-up. I have read a lot of good romances this past month, and let's talk about them. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell you. Let's go. In 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. 3, 2, 1, go. First up, I read The Bachelor. This is the first book in the Chandler Brothers series by Carly Phillips. I gave it 2 cups of coffee. Wah, wah. I did not care for this. I really enjoy Carly Phillips, or a lot of her stuff. I haven't loved everything, but 2 cups of coffee is a really low rating for me. So there's several brothers, Chandler brothers. We're going to get a whole series. I probably won't continue, but there was, I think, 3 or 4 of them. And their mom went to the hospital. Turns out it was acid reflux, but her children don't know this. So she decides to make more out of it and pretend she's ailing, and then convince one of them to give her a grandchild, because all of them are single and don't want to get married. They have careers, they have all this other stuff going on, and they're just not interested. And so her way of getting a grandchild and a daughter-in-law is to like tell them, like, I'm not doing well health-wise and I want a grandchild. And so the brothers come together and they're like, well, we have to fulfill mom's request. So they flip a coin. And our main character, Roman, wins, loses the coin toss, however you want to look at it. For him, it's a loss because he has a career as a reporter and correspondent. His reporting is traveling and that kind of like correspondent for wars and just different stuff like that. And so he has no interest, but he, the coin landed on him. So here we go. What didn't work? Well, I didn't like that in itself, but also what didn't work is then all of a sudden he went from like, I don't want a marriage. How he was like, even like, how am I going to convince her that to marry me and have a child with me, but that I never want to be around them or the baby? And I'm like, okay, good luck. So he went from like that resistant to like, I'm all in like 0 to 60. And I don't like that. It doesn't work for me. I just didn't care for this 2 cups of coffee. And I don't know. I am now rating, thanks to my friend Sonia, who has a channel called Sonia with an I. She talks mostly about cozy mysteries, but she does read other stuff. She's not a big romance reader. And she said to us, we were doing a live reading sprint, she said, wouldn't it be funny if we rated romances with Spice Girls? I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so funny. So I want to make sure I give credit where credit's due. This was all Sonia. I've created a chart. So my Spice scale is now Spice Girls, Baby Spice, Sporty Spice, Posh Spice, Ginger Spice, and Scary Spice. And I'm going to go maybe Sporty Spice for this one. Next up, oh my gosh, I am loving this world. I am on book 3. It's the Brutal Birthright series. This was a suggestion. I messaged Jess from Peace Loves Books, who I faithfully watch all of her videos for years. I like most of her reading taste and I mostly align, not always, but a good portion of the time. And so I was like, hey, where should I start with Mafia? I've read a few Mafia series, but not like some of these. I mean, there's just so many Mafia series. So I was like, you know what? I still feel like I am a newbie to that world. Tell me where I should start. And she said, Brutal Birthright. Okay. Now, I will say this. I know this is going to sound really strange, but I love Mafia worlds, but I don't want the big darkness part to be in the book. I don't want, if there's violence, I just want it alluded to. Like, hey, we're going to go handle this. done. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. I'm very susceptible to stuff like that. It bothers me. I'll have nightmares. And also I've said this before. I work in a field where, I hear a lot of horrible things, and, when I come home, I just don't want that in my life that is supposed to be an escapism for me. So when I go to escape, I want fluffy, I want light, I want fun, I want lightheartedness, joy, happiness, all of those things. But I still like that world. So I know it's hard. So there has to be this line. Well, this series so far has totally worked for me. There's been some violence, don't get me wrong, but again, it's not been crazy. So Brutal Prince right here. I love both covers too. Let me just say that. I love the cover with the male model. I also love the cover with the strawberry. Whichever you prefer. I know some people have big opinions one way or the other. I don't buy a lot of physical books, so I don't. So do whatever makes you happy and you feel comfortable. Holy moly. Okay, the Griffins and the Gallows. Let's talk about it. Holy moly, I love them so much. Okay, so the Griffins were having a party for one of their daughters, and they are part of the Irish mafia in Chicago. And one of the girls is turning 16. And the Gallows were like, hey, let's go and crash this party for fun. And they're like, it's just, they're teenagers, they're kids, like, let's go crash this, okay. So Ada and her brothers go to this party, and they're all kind of around and kind of spread out. And Ada decides she wants to go into the house and see what the house looks like on the inside. It's a mansion, of course, and everything. She's like, I gotta see how these people live and that sort of thing. So she goes in and she's exploring, and she finds a library, and she walks into this library and she's looking around, and this young guy comes in, and she hides, and she realizes right away that he's a Griffin. But they don't really know each other because their families are, feud sort of thing. But they know enough that he's a Griffin. And so she's hiding, and she's like, how am I going to get out of here? And the library has this fireplace, and it's grand and all this stuff and everything. And she decides that she's going to start a little fire to distract him to run out. Well, big fire turns into a big fire. Little fire turns into a big fire. And, not enough, like the house didn't burn down, but the library really got a lot of damage. And when she's running out, Callum Griffin sees her and knows that she's a Gallow. So he calls up his enforcer, and he's like, let's go. And so, of course, the Gallows have left. So, Ada and her brothers, and they're like on their way home, and Ada and her brother, what is his name? Sebastian? I think his name is Sebastian. He's the youngest boy. He's a basketball player. They decide they're going to go and do something else. They're not going to go home. And they're like on a boardwalk, and Callum and his goon show up. And he's like, hey, you took something from the library. I saw that you started the fire, but you took something from the library. It meant a lot to me, because when he walked in, she was looking at this pocket watch, and he walked in and scared her, and she just kind of freaked out and stuffed it in her pocket, not thinking about it. So she ended up leaving with it, not even remembering that she had it. And he's like, I need that pocket watch. And at first, the goon starts kind of beating up her brother and the basketball player, and she is trying to get him to stop because he's beating him pretty gruesomely. He's, again, a big time basketball player. He steps on his knee really hard and that sort of thing. So she takes the pocket watch and throws it into the water because she knows that he'll probably stop what he's doing to go after it. Well, he does. He immediately dives into the water, which obviously is pretty dangerous and cold, and for numerous reasons you should never ever do. Because it's like over a period. There's just a lot of stuff that could have went very wrong to find this pocket watch, which of course he's probably not going to find. All right. So, but in the meantime, she gets her brother up. He's very injured and they take off. Well, by the time she gets home, her dad is like, you've started a war. Do you know what you've done? You have started a war between our families. He's like, we have got to figure this out. We can't have any more bloodshed. Go to bed. So the next day they get up and he's like, I'm having a meeting with the head of the Griffin family, the dad of the Griffin family. We got to work something out, blah, blah, blah. So what do they work out? Those two being Callum and Ada being arranged for marriage, because that'll bring the families together instead of starting a war. Oh my gosh. So when you talk about enemies to lovers, they are true enemies to lovers. Like, they are standing at the altar. Well, first of all, they mess with each other even before the wedding. Like, he sends her for this spa day and she's like, okay, that's sweet. That was nice of him because I have been stressed and this and that. And she gets a massage and it's like, oh, so nice. And then this waxer comes in and is scheduled to wax her from head to toe. And she knows that he did that to, mess with her. And then she sends him this package the day of the wedding. And she's like, I really want you to wear this tuxedo for our wedding. And it's just obnoxious, horrible tuxedo. So they've messed with each other before the wedding, but then they're standing at the altar and the priest is like reading and speaking to, the congregation, and they're like muttering under their breath how they're going to murder one another, like literally murder one another. And one of the best parts of the book to me is right in that moment. So, the priest is like, should I go on? So they get through the ceremony and he says, I now pronounce you husband and wife. And they go to kiss and they, because they hate each other. And he basically collapses and she's like, oh, I guess you are allergic to those strawberries. Sorry. And she had like, oh my gosh, it was wild. It was a wild ride. So when I say true enemies to lovers, but I didn't know if Sophie Lark or any author could really get me to the point where I believed that these two people were in love, because they were actively trying to murder each other. But she did it. I don't know how. I don't know how, especially in the amount of pages we had, but I totally believed by the end that these two were in love. I loved it. I gave this 5 cups of coffee. I'm sorry I spent so much time on it, but it was so fun. Next up, I read Mountain Man's Prize. This is book 2 of the Heroes of Mercury Ridge. I'm going to put it right here. This is by Pippa Brooke. And I gave this 3 cups of coffee only because it was on me for not looking first. And I'm going to explain what I mean. The reason I didn't care for this, it's already very short, but it is complete insta-love. And it's very interesting because our main character is named Theo, and the love interest, Holly, is his best friend's little sister. Or sorry, the other way around. His sister's best friend. Sorry. So his little sister's best friend, Holly. And he has never thought about her. She's been in love with him. It's always been unrequited. She's been in love with him for years. But he is part of the search and rescue team, and he's on the mountain, and Holly's on the mountain doing something kind of like off in the distance, and she has her back to him, and he's like, I've never believed in love at first sight, but I love that woman. By the way, we're on like page 10, just, And she turns around, and he's like, oh, it's Holly. Oh my gosh, I never knew. And then suddenly he's obsessed with her, and I don't do insta-love. I can't. It doesn't work for me. However, again, my fault, because it literally says, if I would have read this, I don't like reading the synopsis of books, but this is why maybe you should once in a while. It says, Mountain Man's Prize is a short and steamy insta-love romance. On me. So let's give it 3 cups of coffee. If you enjoy insta-love and you enjoy like the outdoorsy guy sort of thing, trope, you will really like this. You will really like this. Also, if you know of any good mountain men series, I don't want like cavemen. I'm just talking like mountain men, rugged, outdoorsy guys, big, like burly, bearded men, stuff like that. Let me know. Give me the series. Put them down below. Next up, I read The Fine Line right here. This is the first book in the Pride and Pranks series by Cindy Steele. I love this cover. I absolutely love this cover. So I really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it 3.5 cups of coffee. It would have been a 5-star read, except 2 things. So in this, our main character, she had, I can't think of their names. The main female character had went away for college, and she had met this guy who was very kind of city dwelling type of stuff. And she was from a farming town, and she felt like she had to really change a lot of who she was. So she's going back to her town for one more like small town family ranch summer in Idaho, and before she gets married to this guy. And there is a guy who, since they were kids, they have messed with each other. She doesn't see it as messing. She sees it as him bullying her. But, you know, it's just they constantly are pranking each other and messing with each other. And that started like in 3rd grade. We literally got like flashbacks of them being so young. And she's like, I hate blah, blah, blah. Reason why he did this. And it's so funny. Well, nothing has changed as adults. He's working on her family ranch, which she's like, thanks for the heads up, people. So she's come back to be on the ranch, and he is there, and he immediately starts trying to mess with her. She's like, whoa, we're not doing pranks anymore. We are adults. And he's like, okay. He's like, I won't do a prank until you prank me first. And he does everything but pranks so that he can like get her goat and, you know, get the ball rolling and stuff like that. I loved it. I love that kind of banter, that kind of, you know, silly, messing around. I didn't feel like it was anywhere close to bullying, anything like that. It was good natured. You could definitely tell he was so into her. Like, how she never figured that out, I'm not really sure. So why the 3.5 cups of coffee when you love the cover and you love their interaction? I absolutely loved their interaction, was because one, there is one scene where something happens to an animal that is so graphic and violent, and I don't know why it needed to be included in the book. I probably took off a whole star just for that. Not needed, didn't like it. 2, she broke her engagement and moved on so fast to this guy. And granted, they had all but fallen in love, and I get that. But I mean, like, the steps that they were willing to take after, like, she broke her engagement like an hour before, I was like, my head was spinning. I did not. So that is the only reason. Up until the last part of this book, 5-star read. It's not really spicy. Actually, I don't think it's spicy at all. Maybe because there might be one scene, I'm not going to say baby, I'm going to say sporty, but that would be to the extent sporty spice. Next up, number 2 in the Brutal Birthright, Stolen Heir. This features Nessa and Miko. Yeah. And Nessa is the daughter that was having the birthday party that I told you about from the first book. It's Nessa, right? That was having the party? Yeah. She's part of the Griffin family. So she is Callum's little sister from book 1. And in book 1, there was, at the very end, there was some conflict with the Polish mafia, and they killed the head guy of this Polish mafia. And in book 2, we have Nessa and Miko is the adoptive son of this guy. So he's like now head because his father was killed. He's not head of the Polish mafia. And he's like, there will be revenge. And the revenge is, I'm going to steal your daughter. So he does. And I was like, I don't know if this can work. Because I had to get out of my own head, because I was like, is this love? Is this Stockholm? So I had to like put all those like rational, I got to separate this and just, this is fiction. It's just, let's just go with it. Let's just run with it. Once I was able to compartmentalize like that out of the way, it worked. I really enjoyed it. I Oh my gosh. So it's like a Beauty and the Beast retelling in a lot of ways because he keeps her in the house and he's definitely the beast to her. And oh my gosh, it's so good. When he realizes that he has fallen for her, he's like, okay, I got to give her back to her family. And, everybody else in his world is like, no, like this was not part of the plan. We got to stick to the plan. This is revenge. This is not about, he's like, no, I love her, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you would give this all up for a girl, this and that and the other. He's like, yes, I love this woman. So he gives her back, and her parents are, like, you don't love this guy. He's just been the only person around for a while. And she's like, no, I really love him. And so her parents are like, okay, well, he can come over and court you, but we don't know about this. This is not the way relationships are supposed to go. So he, does. And, oh, I loved it. I loved it. And she's a ballerina. And he does such sweet things for her. Like violent and unhinged, but sweet. I gave him 4 cups of coffee. I really, really, really enjoy this series. Oh my gosh. I don't know what that says about me, y'all. It might say something questionable about me. Next up, I read Enemies to Lovers. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I didn't really love it. I gave it 3 cups of coffee. This is by Portia McIntosh. I'm going to put it right here. I love the cover. And Laura and Sunny, I believe. Laura and Sunny. And they are both reporters, and they're like rival reporters. And they kind of mess with each other. And they mess with each other to the extent where they both get themselves into trouble. And there's this like secret island or secret place, but it's kind of described as an island. Nobody's supposed to know where it is. They like circle you in a plane so you don't even know when you're going, where you land. And for couples, but like celebrity couples, to get like therapy and counseling and work on the relationship sort of thing. And so they're like, you two, you're going to pretend like you're fake dating and you're going to go to this island. You're going to get our story. And so they do. And I gave it 3 cups of coffee, and because Laura, up until like 80% or let's say 70, just to, so I'm not over exaggerating, is still like thinking about, there's a guy that works there that works at the facility, and she kind of likes him. I don't blame Laura. She's single. She's only supposed to be fake dating this guy. I blame the author. Why are you trying to still at 70%? She has no feelings for the guy I'm supposed to believe in the next 30% that she is head over heels in love with. And at 70%, she's still like, well, he's single and I'm single. And again, I don't blame the character at all. That's absolutely true. I just didn't care for it. Didn't work for me. At the end of the book, they weren't even saying they were in love. They're like, well, let's give it a shot because you're kind of cute. And I get I don't know. I'm not a happy for now. And I don't even know if they were happy. They were just kind of like, I think you're hot. Let's, I don't know. It wasn't for me. Oh, and I think that this one didn't have much spice in it. I think probably maybe sporty again, like level 2. Yeah. Next up, Brutal Birthright, number 3. I told you I went off on a tangent and I haven't read any more of them, and I'm dying to read more, but I've got involved into another series, and it's March Mystery Madness, so I'm really focused on cozies, but I am so invested in 2 different romance series right now that is so hard. One of them is this one. Brutal Birthright, number 3, Savage Lover. This is my favorite because this is my favorite couple, or my favorite guy. Sophie Lark. Oh my gosh. 5 cups of coffee. This is Nero and Camille. And holy moly, Nero. There's just, I don't know, there's something about him that, he's unhinged and he is violent, y'all. And he knows that he is, but I just love him. I love him. So he is like the bad boy of the family, and they're all bad. They're in the mafia, or they're all morally gray anyways, but he's like I want to be the one to go and do violence because I need to hit things sort of guy. And he is described as just beautiful. and all the girls are interested in him, and Camille is not really fazed by him either way, because she runs an auto body shop with her dad, and between money issues and now her dad is sick and her brother is getting ready to go to college, she's got a lot on her plate. Her mother isn't in the picture, and her dad's just found out he has cancer. She's not worried about boys at all, and especially Nero and, you know, whatever he's got going on. She's just like, hey, I got too much on my plate. But they keep getting thrown into situations together, and they end up realizing that they just want to be together. And I loved it so much. 5 Cups Coffee, Nero is my favorite of the series. If you have read The Brutal Birthright, I've only read to book 3, so I don't want to know anything after that. But books 1 through 3, tell me who your favorite guy is. By far, I am a Nero fan. And I like Camille. I just don't know if she's my favorite girl. But them together, amazing. Amazing. Next up, I read The Exception to the Rule right here. This is the first in the Improbable Meet Cute. I gave this 3 cups of coffee. Very, very, very short. There is an email exchange that happens on Valentine's Day that was meant for another person, and they end up starting to email each other every Valentine's Day for years, and you see it year after year. They don't tell each other any personal information, but it starts getting personal, but they take out things. They're like, I'm going to blank university for blank. They wouldn't even like tell each other their majors and different stuff like that. Well, then it works out. They're in the same spot. I don't want to say any more than that. 3 cups of coffee. It was very, very short. It was cute. It was just, you know, what it was. I think it's baby spice. I don't think that there's any spice in it. Next up, I read Fireworks right here. This is number 6 in the True North series. I love the True North series. Okay, so this is by Serena Bowen, and this series features a family that owns a cider shop or cider mill. They make like alcohol cider. I don't know. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. And I think they also have like an apple orchard. And but this one is a little different because it's still the people in the town. So our main characters are Sky and Benito. And Sky lived in the town when she was growing up. Her mother, she's the one that like tells us this. Her mother is kind of lives off men, and the men are usually not the greatest caliber. So you can imagine situations that they get put in and different things like that. And she goes back to an ex, and the mom does. And the ex is horrible. He's horrible, and he is really inappropriate with Sky, and she has to lock her bedroom door, and it's just a bad situation. And a lot of times, to get away from him when he's been drinking and stuff like that, they live in a trailer park, and she goes outside and she gets on this lawn chair, and this lawn chair belongs to the next door neighbor, who is Benito. And so they're teenagers. Benito's a couple years older than her, and he really protects her and makes sure that it's not stepdad, but make sure mom's boyfriend doesn't cross the line. Although, I mean, definitely, you know, does everything. But, so Benito ends up asking her on a date, and she's in love with him. But again, they're very young, like 16, 18 at the time when this happened. And she's so excited. And then he stands her up, and she finds out later what happened. And it wasn't that he stood her up, but she leaves that night that he stands her up. She's just like, I can't be here anymore. All these things. And so she leaves, and she comes back because she considers her a stepsister or something like that. The guy who I was talking about, the boyfriend that's so horrible, his daughter. So they kind of have a relationship, the two girls, because they lived together for a while when their parents were dating or whatever it is that they were doing. And so she definitely has a relationship with her. She's probably the closest family besides her aunt that she has. And so the stepsister calls her and says that she's in trouble. And no, she calls her and asks her to come for a weekend, that she has a story for her. And so Sky's like, oh, I don't like to go back there. There's too many bad memories between the guy, the boyfriend, mom's boyfriend, and Benito. And she's like, no. She's like, come back. We're going to have a good time, this and that. And so when she gets there, the sister steals her card and runs off. And she's like, hey, sorry about that, but I'm in trouble. She's like, go find Benito. And Sky's like, what? That's the last thing I wanted to do was find Benito. And she finds him, not purposefully, well, kind of purposefully, I guess. But because her sister tells her to, and she realizes that he is a cop, and I think he's like got a specialty. So I think he's like on the drug enforcement team or something like that. And she's like, my sister said to find you. I think she's in trouble. She ran off. She says there's a story. And he's like, yes, your mom's boyfriend is selling drugs, and I think he's got his daughter involved, and she might be in danger. So they're trying to work that out and find the stepsister and make sure she's safe. In the meantime, they're thrown together, and you can imagine what happens. This one is pretty spicy. I would say maybe ginger spice. Yeah. I gave it 4 cups of coffee. I think I gave it 4 cups of coffee. Next up, I read Nobody But You. This is by Kara Kendrick. It says it's the first book in the Sycamore Mountain series. I gave this 3 cups of coffee. I can't even really remember it. I don't know. It had a military guy and a girl. They get thrown together. They were exes, and then suddenly they're in love. Nothing's changed. They didn't talk about any reason that they broke up, but suddenly they're like, no, let's make it work. It can work. I'm like, well, it didn't work. What's changed? Nothing. Oh, okay. That doesn't work for me in romances. I need people to understand and talk about and communicate why it didn't work the first time and what they're willing to change from both aspects in order for it to work this time, for me to believe in the second chance trope. Next up, I read Magnolia, A Perfect Love. This is the first book in the Flowers Sisters by Asia Monique, and I gave this 3 cups of coffee. I really, really like the sisters, and I want to read more, and I loved the Lennox character. I love the voice for the Lennox character, but because I did this on audio, the dialogue sometimes was so cheesy. It was just a little too cheesy. I don't remember the spice in this. I think it probably is posh from what I remember. So like right in the middle. That's where I'm going. I will continue this because the Flower Sisters, Magnolia has several sisters and they're all flower names. So we're going to get a book from each of them, and I'm definitely going to check out the second one. Next up, I read The Improbable Meet Cute #2. This is, of course, a series of novellas. The first one was by Christina Lauren. I talked about that. This one's by Abby Jimenez. Worst wingman ever. I gave this 4 cups of coffee. I liked this one a lot better than the first one. Again, they're super short. So there's not a whole lot to invest in, but this one was so fun because our main character's brother said, hey, take this note and put it on my girlfriend's car. So he puts it under the windshield of this car, leaves. Well, it's the wrong car. It's a random stranger. And so the brother's like, dude, you did not put this on the right car. And he's like, oh my gosh, I got to go back and write an apology note. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm the worst wingman ever. It was a note that my brother wrote for this other girl, his girlfriend. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, that's okay. It actually made my day. And they start putting notes back and forth. And then they end up obviously meeting at some point. It was so cute. So cute. 4 cups of coffee. Enjoyed it. Next up, I read Mile High. This is the first book in the Windy City series by Liz Tom Ford. This features Xander and Stevie, and Xander is a professional hockey player, and Stevie is the flight attendant for the hockey players team, and Xander just is constantly messing with her, and Stevie she has a brother who plays professional basketball, and she's just kind of doing this flight attendant thing to have money to live, but her passion is with animals. And but she doesn't want to lose her job, and she's been told there is no fraternizing with any of these players, none. Xander is the bad boy of hockey. His best friend is like the family man, and he's meant to be the bad boy, and he's always taking multiple women home, and a different woman all the time, and this, that, and he suddenly realizes he kind of has feelings for her, and he's like, I have to keep it on the down low because my image, and I need a new contract. And she's like, I have to keep it on the down low because I can't fraternize with the team. And so they're kind of like sneaking around and this, that. And there's a lot of miscommunication and ups and downs and this, that. Really, really enjoyed this. I'm not sounding like I don't, but there was just a lot of whoo. And then the reason I gave it 4 cups of coffee is because as someone who loves hockey, I can't believe this would ever happen. I don't give any cares what any of the players do in their private life. I want them on the ice and I want them performing. And I mean performing like scoring or whatever their job is. If they're a goalie, they're stopping pucks. They're closing their 5-hole. That's it. I don't care, nor is it my business what they do in their private life. So it was really hard for me to believe that like, he was like, no, I can't expose to the world. I can't do it because I won't get a contract. And his like agent was in his ear saying, you won't get a contract. Chicago wants you to be the bad boy of hockey. And I'm like, true hockey fans, I just couldn't. But loved the two of them. I loved their banter. I can't wait for number 2. I'm actually even more excited about number 2. 4 cups of coffee. Love a good hockey romance. Next up, I read another Carly Phillips. It was The Kingston Family number 1, Just One Night, right here. I gave this 3 cups of coffee. It was very, again, it featured Link and Jordan, and they're best friends. They've been best friends for a long time. He is her boss. So there is a line of, propriety and all that stuff. But they both have feelings for each other. She's like, oh, I know I shouldn't be with him. He's my best friend. I don't want to ruin that. But I really like him. And he's, giving you the same narrative in his point of view. And then they end up sleeping together one night. And then they just kind of keep going. And they're already kind of in a relationship anyways. They're best friends. But they constantly are each other's dates for things. And they don't really date other people. And so really they're just kind of dating. They just won't say that, sort of thing. But then at the end, they're like, you're my soulmate, I'm in love. And I'm like, it just felt like we were here and they were kind of starting to date. And then they were like, we're together forever and soulmates. And I was like, oh, that was a big hop. So that's why I rated it 3 cups of coffee. I've been very hard on my romances this month. Oh my goodness. I just need certain things to work. You like what you like. All right, everyone. That was my wrap up. My favorite romance of the month probably has to be number 3 and the Brutal Birthright. Which one is that? That's not Stolen Heir. That's Savage Lover. Oh my gosh. Probably has to be my favorite. Can't wait to read more of the Brutal Birthright. Okay, so to sum up, I need 1. Who is your favorite in the Brutal Birthright? Don't give anything away if it's past number 3. So far, Nero, female, Ada, love both of them. Oh my gosh. Okay. 2, Mountain Men series, put them below. And 3, what has been your favorite read of February, or what was your favorite read of February? Give me a big thumbs up for this video, and until next time, may all your future reads be 5 stars. Bye, everybody!